Welcome into the SMU TV studios here in Dallas, Texas. I'm Grace Lawrence.
I'm Peter Warner.
And I'm Grace Thompson.
And we are here to preview the SMU football game at USF. It's an 11 a.m. kickoff on ESPNU. But first, let's talk about that historic Houston game. 77 points were put up by the offense, the highest scoring regulation game in FBS history. We had the opportunity to interview Tanner Mordecai, the quarterback. Let's hear what he had to say. Tanner, you led your team to a historic win over Houston over the weekend. How did your offense manage to put up 77 points?
I mean, Coach Lashley gave us a good plan, and we executed at a high level. We just had to trust what our coaches were putting in front of us, and we just had fun and let it loose. And
you yourself had 10 total touchdowns. What were you seeing out there?
I mean, it all was clicking. Like I said, we had a good plan. Offensive line blocked well, and my receivers made plays. So whenever that all clicks together, good things happen.
Yes, and your team has been laden with so many injuries. How did you guys rally together over the weekend against Houston?
It's kind of a next man up mentality. We don't try to dwell on people that can't go, and if you can go, you're going to go full speed and let it all out.
And you were out for Tulsa, so how hard was it watching that game from the sidelines, and then how excited were you, how ready were you to get back in the game against Houston?
Yeah, it was weird not being able to play with my concussion, but it gave me a better perspective, and can't take this game for granted.
Definitely. Now I'm just going to read this because I couldn't memorize them all. National Player of the Week by the Maxwell Award, Davey O'Brien Award, Earl Campbell, Tyler Rose Award, CFPA, and Walter Camp Award, and you were named the AAC Offensive Player of the Week. What do these mean to you?
And they're awesome, but I'm focused on getting a win this weekend and moving forward. Those awards, they're great, but what matters is us winning.
Spoken like a true leader. Now, Houston's headed to the Big 12. SMU doesn't know the next time they're going to play them. How did it feel to send them out with the L?
It was good, especially how it ended last year against them. It was good to get one back against them.
And then you guys have 3 more games left on the season. What do you guys hope to accomplish?
Win out.
Thank you so much, Tanner, for taking the time to do that. Now, Grace, on a scale of 1 to 10, how impressed were you with his performance?
I would say probably an 8.5. I think I've been one of Tanner's harsher critics this season, and I think I'm eating my words now just a little bit. I was really happy to see him be really, really competitive. Obviously breaking so many records for SMU, for the conference, and for the NCAA. So I give him an 8.5. It was awesome.
8.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Peter, he comes off, again, the Tulsa game where he cannot play. He said he had the concussion. He was really ready, geared up, ready to play that game. What, on a scale of 1 to 10, do you give him?
I gave him a 10. He had almost near perfect PFF grade. I broke every record. He threw more touchdowns than incompletions. I don't think you'll see that almost in anything ever.
Yeah.
Again. I only said 8.5 just because I have a past feeling towards him.
Yeah,
not personally, obviously.
A little remorse.
Yeah,
about other
I just
games.
It's going to take more than one game like
That's
that
true.
to redeem him in my book.
Yeah, I agree. That from that perspective, yes, he's not a 10. That single game, imagine if he played like that all season.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome. But
exactly.
he hasn't, but that was incredible.
Yes.
So.
Let's get into the run game a little bit. Tyler Levine almost doubled his yards he had against Tulsa, so he has 146 yards for a touchdown. Grace, how important was it that he's stepping up into this role? He's been a leader on the team for so many years, and now he's really coming into this great role. So what have you thought of him?
I think in the past few weeks, obviously we spent a lot of this season talking about how we don't have a run game, and the past 2 weeks Tyler has really taken things to a next level, and obviously he doubled his yardage in that game. So I think that him taking that step up, we talked about someone needing to step up and who it was going to be, and I'm happy that it's Tyler, and he's really a force to be reckoned with.
I know just a few weeks ago, Peter, you were saying how inconsistent the run game was, how they needed to just go with somebody and just hone in on him and choose him, and it was Tyler, and he's done so great so far. So what have you seen from him that you've enjoyed?
Yeah, and he's a bowling ball that just gets yardage every play. I love it. He's got that dog in him. I should insert name. I'll make one and put it up there. But no, he's been incredible, and he's a leader, which I like a lot. As I said before, and we have said, we need a leader in this locker room and the running back group specifically to step up and take control, and he has, and it's been really impressive. And he's able to carry a full workload of being an RB1, which I think I was a little bit skeptical about first because he has never been in that role before, but he's stepped up and taken control of an RB1 and the workload that comes with it, which I think has been very impressive for someone that's really never done that in their career.
Completely, yeah. He's had he's been through a lot of trials and tribulations, lots of injuries, but, he's really found his ground, which is so nice to see. You love success stories, especially when it's on the SMU side of the ball. Now let's get into the throw game. So we also had the opportunity to talk to Rasheed Rice. Let's see what he had to say. You were part of an offense that put up 77 points this weekend. You yourself had 2 touchdowns. What clicked against Houston?
Obviously those cool new uniforms, we couldn't look good and not play good, but just having the motive to, come out and finish the season strong.
You're the only player in the country to have over 1,000 receiving yards. What's clicked this season?
My connection between me and Tanner, working hard during the offseason.
And can you tell me more about that special chemistry? Because he's had a huge part, like you said, in those numbers you've been able to put up.
It's honestly just repetition, like over and over, just practicing and, kind of just building our confidence between each other.
And you made a major decision to come back to SMU over the offseason. Do you think it's paid off so far?
Yeah, of course. It's probably the best decision I made my whole life. It was the best decision I made my freshman year, and it's the best decision I made a couple months ago.
Getting back to the Houston game, they're headed to the Big 12, obviously. Next season, SMU doesn't know the next time they're going to play them, so how did it feel to send them out with the loss?
It felt great. I kind of want to send everybody out with the loss. Probably shows that SMU probably should take a next step and, make a couple changes and go to the Big 12.
You're 9 games into the season. You have 3 left. What do you guys hope to accomplish?
We just want to finish the season strong and finish all 3 of these games with wins and, possibly break a couple records on the way.
What's the backstory also of the profile picture change to Tanner on Twitter?
If it was anyone I wanted to be that day, it was Tanner Mordecai.
I love it. Now, my final question. Can anyone in this country guard you?
No, not at all.
Love it. Good luck at USF. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, Rasheed. Now, he was just named to the Senior Bowl about an hour or 2 ago, earlier in the day. So what did you see from Rasheed that you really enjoyed over the weekend against Houston?
I think it's the same thing we see every week. Like, he cannot be stopped, and I think that is always something that he talked about. But I'm just curious to see how he plays for the rest of the season, and if there's going to be a team that we haven't, like we still have Tulane and Memphis left that I think could maybe try something with him. So I think he always plays phenomenally, and he's back to leading the country in receiving yards. So I hope we finish out the season in that same way.
Right. Peter, he said, nobody in this country can guard me. Do you think it's true, and what have you enjoyed from him against Houston?
I haven't seen anyone yet. I don't know. Tulane's defense has been impeccable this year, so that's the one team that might be able to stop him. But throughout the rest of the schedule, this weekend, I think he's going to have a heyday on that secondary and that team that's not so great. We'll get into that later. But I think he's going to just dominate, and he will continue to dominate and then potentially be a first-round draft pick because he's just that good of a football player.
I think also
so.
We've seen him triple-teamed. We've seen him doubled, and it never, ever stops him. So, I agree with him at that. And at this point in the season, can anyone guard him?
Right, and one of the things I asked him was, do you like the decision you made to come back for your last year here? And he said it was the best decision I've ever made. He goes, it's right up there with coming here as a freshman. He is so invested in SMU. Do you think that shows in his game?
I feel like that's like the most important thing about him is how he represents us. The 214 always flashing that up. He made SMU his, in a way, his personality trait and flexing how we are the team to be at and where you should want to be. And I think he shows that through his game about his care, his leadership, and the emotion he puts into the game too. When you see him on the sideline, when you see him on the field, he is into it, and that is the only thing on his mind is SMU football and nothing else. Right. And I really think that shows.
So this weekend he also broke 1,000 yards, and there's an interesting stat. If we counted the penalties he drew and the yards that came from those, he'd probably be at about 1,500 right now. So Grace, what do you just said it? But once again, it's either the ball's coming at him and he's going to catch it, or he's going to draw the penalty. How critical and crucial has that been to the offense?
I think from drawing the penalty standpoint, that has earned us incredible yardage and has made a lot of games, has affected a lot of games, like whether we won or not, because it has been so crucial. I think that his ability to pull penalties is a little bit unique. I think that has the highest rate in the country for pulling penalties.
Yes.
I think that that's, again, a unique trait, and I think that his ability to not only catch the ball and score incredible touchdowns, but also earn yardage for the team in kind of a different way is also really special.
Right. Another thing we talked about was the conversation around conference realignment. So before we get into the conference realignment, let's look at the conference and where it stands now. Peter, can you give me a little outlook on what are the odds it is for SMU to make the championship? Just give me the picture.
It's a fun one. Stat guy Pete came in and did some work. A lot needs to happen. I looked it up. There's really no clear thing that they say that's an actual tiebreaker. So the teams that we don't have a head-to-head against that will need to lose games are ECU, Cincinnati, and UCF. So those are teams that need to lose. Cincinnati needs to lose. ECU needs to lose once, Cincy, and UCF twice. So I looked at the schedule and found the most likely games for these teams to lose to get us in there. So starting with this week on week 11, ECU needs to beat Cincy. And then Tulane needs to beat UCF. Tulane needs to win out, except for us. So, and their last 3 games of the season really are their hardest games on their schedule. They have UCF, us, then close it out with Cincinnati. So they have a hard schedule coming up. But so that's for week 11. Week 12, Navy takes down UCF. Houston beats ECU. So there's 4 games, and then week 13 again, Tulane needs to beat Cincy. So there's 5 games.
And we need to win out.
And that's winning out. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And then so this, again, this is the wildest but craziest shot we have, and it's the best shot, which is crazy. But I used FPI, did some math, and figured out the exact percentage of those 5 games in that scenario happening. Just those 5 games, not us winning out. It's 0.176% chance.
Better than 0.
It's better than 0. I mean, people win the Powerball, right? There's
Exactly.
a chance. But
That's
so
true.
0.176 chance that
I
happens.
think what you said this weekend to happen could very much happen.
This weekend, I think, has a chance. It's next week where it gets a little hard with the Navy UCF. Navy only has an 8.8% chance in that game against UCF. But then, so on top of that, to see our chance of winning out plus that to actually make it happen, we have a 16.8% chance to win our next 3 games, combining the percentages from ESPN FPI, and then you multiply that by that 1.176%, and we have a 0.03% chance making that championship game. I guess you could say crazier things have happened.
They really have.
But that's kind of the breakdown, and that's kind of how the pecking order of the conference is looking right now. It's most likely going to be Tulane / UCF or Cincy. If one of them beats Tulane, it'll be those 2 teams, I would guess.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the conference scenario right now. Not great for us.
Right.
But never give up hope.
Yeah, Tulane's sitting pretty, and we'll take them on next Thursday. So that'll be a really great show to tune into. Also, before when we were talking about conference realignment, there was an article that came out in the Mercury, correct?
Yes.
And it was about, again, conference realignment. SDSU and SMU have the highest odds to get into the Pac-12 because, of course, USC and UCLA are exiting for the Big Ten. Grace, obviously we kind of hope they get into the Pac-12 because of how step back almost the conference took with they're not awful teams, but, SMU has a very, it's worse teams than we've played in the past few years. So how much do you hope that they get into the Pac-12, and what do you see happening if that does end up the case?
Obviously, I would really hope for them to end up in the Pac-12 or honestly any other conference. Obviously, the Pac-12 is the more likely, I would say. I think if we kind of get quote-unquote stuck in our current conference, I would say that it'd be likely harder for us to move in future years just because I don't think that this conference will remain as competitive as it is now. I don't think that there's really any chance that the teams below us raise their caliber in the next few years. So I would say that this is kind of our last shot for the next foreseeable future
10 years at least.
Yeah, to change conferences, because if we don't move to the Pac-12, then I think
you're going to miss the boat.
Yeah, and I think we're stuck until the next major realignment happens, which I don't foresee being within the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Right. And the only thing glass half full is that they might win conference for a few years. Might go undefeated.
It's less exciting.
I
if
completely
there's-
agree.
Did you all see the
stadiums are going to
schedule
be less full.
announcement that
Yes.
they put out? That's
And we're not
bad.
even playing the best teams
No
every
offense,
single
American
year.
Conference, but that's bad.
But we're not playing even the best teams in the conference every single
we
year.
don't get
And now they're
Tulane.
considering UNT a rival. Every year we're playing them, but not every year we're playing ECU. Not every year we're playing, I believe, Memphis
Tulane
it
or
was.
Memphis, not every year. We don't get either of those 3 every single year, which sucks. But yeah, on the conference thing, I saw something from John Wilner. He's worked tons of different West Coast Pac-12 magazines. He said, he gave out percentages from what he's hearing on what happens. He said 40% chance that Pac-12 adds us and SDSU, 20% chance they add just SDSU, but that's logistically a nightmare for scheduling and conference purposes.
11 teams, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't really work. And then 40% chance they stay at 10. But the biggest thing we have to wait for on the Pac-12 front is when they get that media deal done, how much it's going to be worth, and if that, and will it help our buyout with the American too, because we are going to have to get out of the conference.
Right, because the Big 12, they closed with Fox and ESPN a couple weeks ago.
They're currently looking at Amazon with ESPN Plus, and then Pac-12 Network. That's currently the deal at the Pac-12. That's hopefully going to be finalized within the next month. Then from there, that's when the talks will really heat up for us.
Awesome. So let's get into the USF game a little bit. If they win, if SMU wins, beats USF, they are officially bowl eligible. Now, they've been bowl eligible for 3 straight seasons. They played Boca Raton 3 years ago, but the past 2 bowls, COVID happened. So, Grace, how bad do you want a bowl for these players, and how bad do you want them to play in it?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see us get into a bowl game and actually see us play. I think the Boca Bowl, our freshman year, was not necessarily the best performance out of our team that we've seen in the past 4 years, and I think that this is a much stronger and more developed team that we've seen this season, and I think a lot of the players deserve to play in a bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously with the Fenway Bowl last year, that was a really unfortunate circumstance, pretty last minute as well. So yeah, I would love to see a bowl for our senior season selfishly, but as well as for a lot of the huge game changers on the team. To get a bowl as well.
Right, and I'm thinking not a lot of them are going to sit out of it if we get one. Peter, what are you hoping for the bowl predictions?
Bowl predictions, I hope we can get a good bowl game. The thing I'm worried about is a lot of the bowl games that we are tied in with as a conference aren't very competitive. There's a chance we could play like an Air Force or something, which I think would be a very fun opponent to watch with the triple threat that they run. But yeah, I just hope we kind of make one of the upper 3 bowl games maybe in the conference. Win out, beat Tulane, we might be able to get into one of those better bowl games.
Right.
I just hope we can get a good opponent, and that'll help players like Rashi stay, because that'll help his draft potential. If we get in a crappy bowl game, I think there's a better chance him and other NFL prospects might back out because they don't want to get hurt against FAU again, for example. Now we're just one of these, like Charlotte or LA Tech. They don't want to get La Tech. Don't want
Future American teams.
Future American
is
teams.
is what I'm hearing.
That's I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, let's get into the defense a little bit. They let up 63 points. We've honed in so much on what they need to improve. Grace, I always talk to you about the defense. They're not really listening to us over here, but 63 points is a lot. I don't think they will give up 63 points again this season. But what do you hope they change, on Saturday?
I mean, I can't even say what I specifically hope they change, because clearly nothing that they're doing is really working. I mean, it was memed all over the internet last week. Obviously, it was the highest scoring game, and our offense played fantastic, but we still let up 63 points. And I think that at the end of the day, it was an offensive game for both teams. Neither team was really playing defense. And at that point, I was like, what is the point of this game even happening if you're not actually going to try to play both sides of the ball? So I would love to see something different. I genuinely just don't know anymore, because we've been talking about it this whole season. And obviously, I doubt that they watch this, but I don't know. The defense just has consistently disappointed me, and I don't know anymore what a clear-cut change would be, because I think they've changed things every week, and none of them have made enough of a difference.
Something positive, but you should never count out USF as 1-8. So they also just fired their head coach, Jeff Scott. So, honestly, you've seen some teams rally around an interim, and but 1-8's pretty tough. They're coming to their end of the season. They're not going to be bowl eligible. They're nowhere near close to most teams in this conference. So, Peter, with that in mind, what is your prediction for Saturday?
Multiple touchdowns and multiples, I think, for the Stings. Again, defense is always scary for us, so you never actually know how it could end up. But I'm thinking probably 20-point win for the Mustangs at least. I know what the lines are pretty big for us. I'm pretty sure I haven't looked too closely, but thinking it's probably going to be a very big win for the Mustangs, which is good. They also might treat it as more of a vanilla bye-week game in a way. I'm thinking we might be able to see Jennings again. I'm thinking in the second half, because if we play Tanner dominate the first half, make it a Jennings second half, and he still won't burn a year of his eligibility.
Right.
So that's something I'm looking forward to most in this. But a lot of points, and then getting to see the depth of the team.
Yeah, especially because they play Tulane next Thursday, which is going to be a week from today. It's a quick turnaround, probably one in the beginning of the season. They were looking forward to a USF Tulane turnaround. It's not the case anymore. So what are you hoping for on Saturday, knowing that Tulane's right there?
I think kind of what Peter just said, I think it would be smart if we are leading and really like owning the game. I think it would be smart to play Jennings and kind of give Tanner a little bit of rest, just because Tulane, I think, is obviously the game that they're occurring in the same week technically, and I think Tulane is the game that needs the focus and the attention. Obviously that doesn't mean that no one should be in the game versus USF, you know what I mean? But I think if they're playing well, then I don't see a problem with giving some rest to those players who are going to be needed versus Tulane. Like if Tanner, God forbid, were to have an issue versus USF, what would we do versus Tulane? And I'm not saying that to second guess Jennings, but he's never played an entire football game.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
We've only seen a hint of him.
Yeah.
So, but it'd be nice, like we are saying, to see him in the second half again. That game will kick off at 11 a.m. on ESPNU. We thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back here for an earlier show in the week. We're still figuring out the logistics because Tulane's a Thursday game. So we're gearing up
As
for
it
that
always
one
is.
too. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're in the
seriously.
latter half of the season. As always, pony up.